What's going on, Fight Feeders? Welcome back to Fight Feed. So, coming out of this whole Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane fight at UFC 321, everybody was kind of waiting on the edge of their seats to see what Mr. Jon Bones Jones was going to say about the situation. Obviously, the only thing that we've heard from him thus far is we haven't heard anything, actually. It's just a photo of the duck with an eye patch. Funny as it is, what a lot of fans are now recirculating is a clip of Jon Jones where he was on a podcast and he talks about if Tom actually can even get past Cyril Gane, and that's a tough task. But in the context of this clip, which I'm going to show you guys, they get into a little bit more specific detail about why Jon essentially thinks that Tom's a quitter, okay? Before I show this clip to you guys, and I know most of you probably seen it, but I am going to show it here just for context. But the one thing that this video is going to be attacking is the idiotic take from Jon Jones on that podcast to even compare from a danger perspective, he compares an armbar to that of a heel hook. And I'm going to get into this more and elaborate more. Before I do that, just want to say thank you guys for stopping by. Make sure to give this video a like. Also, guys, would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are about this video in particular. What do you think about Jon's take on comparing the armbar versus heel hook? And now what I'll do for you guys is play the clip of Jon Jones, and then we can get into the meat of this discussion.
To see if he wins his next fight. Because
what's the rumor? Cyril Gane?
Cyril Gane, supposedly. There's a video that hasn't gone viral, but one of his losses, he was very much an adult. I believe already a black belt, and he was taken down, and the guy twisted his ankle. He had no defense. He tapped so quickly. There was no. I had a fight where I got armbarred, and I was literally willing to let somebody break my arm before giving up.
This is Vitor Belfort.
Vitor Belfort. With Tom, the moment he felt any pressure on his ankle, he tapped immediately, which lets me know a lot about.
All right, guys. So as you saw in that clip, Jon talks about how in his career, or we'll start off with what Jon hits on first. He talks about how Tom quit in a fight previously in his career. This was a lot earlier on in Tom's career. To be specific, this fight that Jon is speaking of was in 2015. So that was a decade ago, meaning that Tom was the ripe age of 22 years old when this happened. Now, Jon was already champ at that age. So, that we have to take that as it is, right? Jon was already a champ, already seeing lots of success. Jon is a fantastic fighter, guys. I don't want to take away from that whatsoever. But even if this submission on Tom were to happen 2 weeks ago versus 10 years ago, right? Jon then talks about how he was in an armbar with Vitor Belfort and giving up or quitting was never even an option. And rightfully so, guys. This is one of the most significant moments in Jon Jones' career, right? If you were to look back on highlights, it's definitely one of those moments that is legendary, right? The way he's able to get out of that armbar and still win that fight. Was already dominating the fight regardless, though. But the reason I'm making this video, guys, is because, as you know, if you are a Fight Feeder, you've subscribed to Fight Feed for a while now, you guys know that I am currently not practicing martial arts. I've done bits of training here and there. The only thing that I can train right now in my current state is punch and bob outside, okay? So that's something I do on a regular basis. But in terms of like actual jiu-jitsu training, I did do a trial course a few times. Guys, right now, it's not really in my budget, unfortunately, to be able to afford. Like every place that I've checked is like $100 plus per month. And right now in my current budget, it's just not something that I can comfortably afford. But when I am able to afford it and there's a gym close by, I'm going to be going. So what I want to preface with that is I have the knowledge of a beginner. Well, okay. I have the knowledge or like the practical skills of a white belt / beginner. Okay. But I actually understand quite a bit more, right, about jiu-jitsu and submissions than I would say probably the average person, right? Because I watch UFC, I watch MMA every weekend. I'm obsessed with this sport, as most of you are. So I say that now because the reason I have a huge issue with Jon Jones in this clip particularly is that Jon Jones is a world-class practitioner of not only jiu-jitsu, but also wrestling and striking, like the mixture of all the martial arts. He is what we most would consider the GOAT, right? So for him to actually sit there and compare being put in an armbar and a heel hook as if they're the same thing is preposterous to me. Because me as a white, I'm not even a fucking white belt. I am not even a fucking white belt, but I can sit there and understand a heel hook submission is immensely more dangerous than an armbar submission. Immensely more dangerous. Okay. And Jon Jones is a guy who is considered the GOAT of the sport, considered a guy, not even considered, he's a guy who has been in this sport at the highest level, championship level. He should know, and I know he knows this. He knows that a heel hook is way more dangerous than a motherfucking armbar. But Jon Jones wants to go out there and try to shit on Tom because Tom tapped out when he was put in a heel hook submission. And then he uses his own situation where he was put in an armbar and how he didn't give up. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing here, guys, is attacking this whole narrative from Jon because I think it's complete bullshit. So for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to break it down for you. The heel hook is a submission that attacks the knee and the surrounding ligaments of the knee and the way that that is done is the person who is actually doing the submission. This is why you see when people put someone in a heel hook, they get that heel hook and they do like the alligator roll. That rolling is like it creates a torque on the knee, right? And so it's like you grab their ankle, which this is another thing about Jon Jones' clip. Jon Jones talks about how Tom was tapping because someone hurt his ankle. Like, dude, a heel hook submission has nothing to do with the ankle. The only thing it has to do with the ankle is that is the point in which the person who's doing the submission grabs the other opponent, right? But the actual damage that is being done is in the knee, okay? Now, with a heel hook, because it's attacking the knee and the surrounding ligaments, this is your ACL, your MCL, your PCL, your meniscus, and the joint capsule within your knee. The armbar, on the other hand, attacks the elbow joint, which can cause dislocation, ligament tears, or even a broken forearm or humerus if it's not, defended against, or if you just continue holding on and not tapping out. Well, a core difference between the heel hook and armbar in terms of danger, though, is that the structures in your knee can often tear or be demolished essentially without even any real signs, right? Generally, you'll hear fighters talk about how they heard a pop or something. In your knee, you can actually tear things without even hearing or feeling a pop, and basically the damage can be detrimental. Whereas in the arm, you have a lot more signs that you're on your way to catastrophic injury prior to tapping. Now, the biggest difference, guys, between the heel hook and the armbar. And guys, this is someone who's a white belt. I've done my own research on this. I'm not even a white belt. Remember that. And guys, I want to open the floor too for anyone that's a grappler, trains grappling, does jiu-jitsu. I would love for you guys to tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if anything I have in this research is incorrect. Comment below. The difference between the heel hook and armbar, guys, is that a heel hook submission can cause catastrophic fucking damage to your knee almost instantly. That's why when you see Vitor Belfort, for instance, when he latches up the heel hook, starts doing the alligator roll, even before he starts rolling, a lot of times dudes are tapping. And you know why? It's because that damage to your knee, it could literally completely change the course of your kneecap for the rest of time. All right. And then we're talking surgeries. We're talking, a year plus of therapy that you have to go through just to recover from that injury. And that is from one submission that can happen, like I said, almost instantaneously when someone has it locked up and is torquing the knee. Now, because of that, and because of the way that the heel hook submission uses torque by, that rotational force, this can cause deep ligament damage before you even start to feel pain or even have like a reflexive escape or tap, which gives the fighter who's actually getting this, the fighter who's actually being submitted by a heel hook has a very tiny window of time before they can actually tap out and stop that type of damage happening. Whereas with an armbar, you have a lot more warning, right? Like if you guys go watch like when Tony Ferguson got put in an armbar, I think by Charles Oliveira, he was wincing in pain. And obviously, Charles was, trying to hyperextend that elbow, and Tony was like wincing in pain. But where I'm headed is that with the armbar, before you hit that catastrophic damage standpoint, you have a lot more signs that you're like on your way there, right? You're gonna feel popping, you're gonna feel pain prior to like catastrophic damage. Whereas with the heel hook, it's like by the time you're feeling that pain in your knee, it's already too late. You've probably already torn a ligament, popped something. That is how dangerous the heel hook submission is. Guys, this is why the heel hook submission, really, if you actually go and do research on different gyms, right, or different gi competitions, a lot of different jiu-jitsu competitions, specifically like amateur rule set competitions, don't even allow heel hooks a lot of times because of how dangerous they are. And now if we're just going to compare, the arm bar again to the heel hook, guys, because of the amount of damage that it can cause, it can also cause long-term damaging effects for a fighter. If someone is put in a heel hook, they have let's just say they're put in a heel hook and they get injured for whatever reason. This will cause likely a way higher chance of knee instability for the rest of that fighter's career. And should anything actually be torn or, fucked up by that submission, you are looking at a year minimum in terms of therapy. Because usually if you're put in a heel hook and you don't tap and it gets locked up correctly, you are going to tear several ligaments probably in your knees. And so then you're not only going to be out, you have to get surgery on your knee and sometimes get a whole reconstruction of your knee, especially if it blows through all of the different parts of your kneecap, right? Now, an armbar, you can still have some significant long-term injury, but that is generally if you let it go all the way to the point where your arm is completely broken. And in that case, you're going to have nerve damage, you're going to have instability, you're going to have joint arthritis. These things are going to impact you, but it's the odds of an armbar being like an outright career-ending injury or causing career-ending injury is way less than a heel hook submission. A heel hook submission, like I said, if that gets latched up and that opponent has torque on it immediately, you could completely blow out your knee in less than 10 seconds, right? And that right there, guys, if you want to try to compare the whole Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall situation, Tom was whooping dude's ass in that fight. Dude got the heel hook and like almost instantly Tom tapped out. And look, dude, that happens. And in Tom's case, it was a smart decision to tap out in that fight, because why should Tom before he's even on the UFC's radar, this is 5 years before he even made it to the UFC, why should Tom stay in a fight with a guy who's latched up a heel hook and is probably going to completely shred Tom's kneecap? Why should Tom do that and stay in that fight versus just taking the L and moving on and getting better? Let's just say Tom pulled the Jon Jones, like, I didn't tap from the armbar. Tom probably is going to be out then for an entire year after that. And now the entire course and trajectory of where Tom's career has gone has changed significantly because he would choose to stay in a fight. Which the other thing is, I think the pain, guys, and the potential damage from a heel hook is way more so than an armbar. Because let's just say, even in a fight, if someone is to fuck up one of their arms, right? Yeah, it's definitely not a good idea that you stay in the fight, your arm's compromised. But realistically speaking, if your arm gets fucked up from that submission, you could still continue to fight after that. Now, that's the difference though. You tear an ACL or anything in that kneecap, there's no way you can continue the fight, right? Unless you can stand and walk on that leg, which odds are if you're tearing everything in your knee, you're not going to be able to stand, right? So if that is the case, how is someone who gets heel hooked even close to comparison to someone who got an armbar submission? Not to mention, if you watch Jon Jones in that fight with Vitor Belfort did have that submission completely latched up. But the issue is Jon's arms, guys, they are so fucking long. I really don't think Vitor had enough torque or leverage from the position he had Jon in to even crank that armbar further to a point where Jon's elbow would be at a point of like no return. And when you compare that situation to what Tom Aspinall had, this guy latched up a heel hook and turned over, and Tom's like instantly tapping because, like I said, that escape window for a heel hook is so marginal compared to that of an armbar. And the reason I find it so stupid for Jon to even compare these things is because this dude should know this. He should fucking know this. Like, I don't even understand how an armbar and not tapping to an armbar is compared to not tapping to a heel hook submission. And I love how Jon also says, like, oh, he didn't even have any way a defense on it. It's because the dude that grabbed Tom's ankle, it was literally out of nowhere. This dude somehow, like, was getting his ass beat, grabbed Tom's ankle. Tom tried to pull away or get out. And by that point, the guy had already latched it up. And he rolled with the torque, which caused Tom to tap instantaneously. So I wanted to make this video just to call out how I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that Jon, once again, is like, and this is not once again, this is an old video, but it's like you want to try to compare something that happened to in your career to something that happened in Jon's career, and it's comparing apples to motherfucking oranges. The only thing that is comparable is that they're both jiu-jitsu submissions, but one is on the fucking kneecap and extremely dangerous. One is on the arm, which, look, an armbar is still a very good submission, but dude, I feel like you could teach a beginner how to do an armbar in 5 minutes, I would say. Like, it's not that hard of a submission to understand or learn. That doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. It's still very dangerous, but I just think that when you're considering the amount of damage that each submission can cause and the part of the body that it's causing the damage to, there is zero comparison in terms of how dangerous it truly is. Guys, the reason, like, we see so many fighters tapping instantly from heel hooks is because they don't want to be out of commission for an entire year just to try and say they stayed in the fight. Because guess what? Once that heel hook is fully torn everything in the kneecap, that fighter's not going to be able to continue either way. So it's like you're going to lose unless you can find a way out. But the margin that you have to actually find a way out, I would say you probably have a few seconds. Compared to that of an armbar, there's a lot of different things that you can do in terms of, positionally. Obviously, you probably have a better chance of also even punching or hitting your opponent from a certain position. Now, if they've got a fully locked in armbar, your arm's already out, like it's likely your shit's going to get fucked up. But compared to that of a heel hook, that time between is just so small for heel hooks, guys. So I don't really like this whole like, oh, Tom taps, so he's a quitter. Dude, like, I don't know where this comes from, but Jon Jones can sit there and act though as he's Mr. Macho Man, right? I'm Mr. Macho Man. I gotta put an armbar, I didn't tap. But dude, you fucking sat out for how long and didn't want to fight Tom so bad that you retired? What's worse? I think it's worse to sit out for fucking however many goddamn months you sat out and lead on fans, lead on the UFC because you're Jon Jones, and then you ultimately pull the plug when you know your hand's gonna be forced that you have to defend against Tom, you back out. What's fucking worse? Now, with that said, guys, Jon Jones didn't have to fight Tom, okay? If he wanted to continue being heavyweight champ, he would have to. But I think it's completely fine that Jon made the decision to go off into the sunset and not fight Tom. That's totally fine. The issue at hand is Jon leading everybody on for as long as he did. And then now he wants to act like because he didn't tap from an armbar that he's like Mr. Badass. Bro, you literally didn't fucking want to fight Tom. And you have every excuse in the book as to why you didn't want to fight Tom. I just find it hilarious. I find it so funny because everybody who's stands of Jon Jones, which I think that Jon Jones is a fantastic fighter, but dude, I have lost so much fucking like respect for a lot of things because of how he's carried himself. Like, I just can't get behind someone who is out here not only like, dude, he wants to shit on Tom and diminish Tom all these times, right? Tom has only been talking about Jon because Jon had the belt that Tom wanted to challenge for, and Tom was 1000% the most deserving contender. He was the fucking interim heavyweight champ, mind you. So Tom deserved that chance. And so what did Tom do? Tom did everything he could to try to promote and get a fight between him and Jon Jones. And Jon Jones quit. He literally quit. So if you want to call Tom not continuing in a fight when he got his eye poked, quitting, what do you have to call Jon Jones retiring when he was supposed to defend and told everybody he was going to? He's a quitter too. It's the same fucking thing. So I just had to make this, guys, because I am just shocked that a guy that is at the level of Jon Jones, the knowledge of Jon Jones, he's sitting here talking about how Tom's ankle is going to get hurt when the heel hook doesn't even fuck with your ankle. It fucks with your kneecap. And Jon should very well know a heel hook submission is way more dangerous than an armbar. What do you guys think about this? I would love to hear any of your thoughts. Like I said, especially if you are a grappler, do jiu-jitsu, would love to hear from any of you as you're going to be able to bring probably a lot more to this discussion than I can. But I just wanted to share, obviously, the knowledge that I have regarding these submissions and why I think this whole clip really is just like, it's bullshit to me. It's just comparing two separate things that aren't even really loosely connected in terms of the damage, the part of the body. Like it's really a way for Jon Jones to continue to try and build up that like narcissistic vibe he's got going of like why he's the best and no one can compare. But I would love to hear from you guys. So leave a comment below and let me know what you guys think. Please give this video a like and please subscribe to Fite Feed if you haven't already so you can stay on top of all the new MMA content that I post. I post almost daily. Thank you again, and I will see you all in the next one.